Long time no see, Foxtrot. Hope you all have been enjoying Unity Cup. If you are still trying to understand and wrap your head around its intricate mechanics and how to make the most of each run, you are kind of in luck because this video is going to be just about that. I say kind of because I really tried my best with this one, but it's going to be a bit complicated. You see, with this video, I aim to do my best to make a compact but informative guide on how to make the most of your Unity Cup runs, as well as explaining its inner workings. So let's get to it. Now, before we get the main meat of the guide, there are a couple of things we have to understand. Now, the main issue we have to tackle is understanding the difference between Unity Cup and Ura Finale. Unity Cup and Ura Finale, in the simplest terms, have a different focus in building your Umas. In Ura Finale, you have a delicate balance of training your Umas for your ideal stat line and racing as many G1 races as you can for precious skill points to buy skills at the end of your career. Unity Cup shifts the balance to heavily favored training more than racing. So, what does this mean in the bigger picture? Now, this means that instead of racing, you will be training a lot more. Now, as a side effect of this, if you are not training, you are resting. Which in Ura Finale, if you aren't training, you are usually racing or resting. This really is the main difference between Unity Cup and Ura Finale, and it will get a lot more layered and complex from here on in, but understanding this one difference will make everything afterwards hopefully make sense. Unity Cup introduces a training-centric mechanic called Unity Training. This training-centric mechanic is the meat and bones of this career, and what you will be interacting and tackling the most. Now, the most common question that I myself have asked, that I think a lot of you will probably have, is how do I train in Unity Cup? Now, some of our habits in Ura Finale will still carry over, but there will be a lot of adjustments and micro adjustments. In Ura Finale, we always prioritize bond levels, even if they land in stats that we don't normally prioritize, such as guts, wit, and power or stamina, depending on your Uma race length. Now, in Ura Finale, training 4 times in one stat doubles up the training by 1 level. Now, training speed 3 times in a row, depending on your cards and character events, can be done about 3 to 4 times in a row with little chances of failure on the third or fourth training session before you have to rest. Now, assuming you do not get Night Owl, and you also assume that maybe you get well rested once every 4 or 3 rests, you will spend a total of about 20 to 24 turns to level up a stat training from 1 to 5. So 20 to 24 turns is roughly a calendar year, or just less than a calendar year in your career mode, with each month having 2 turns. So this calculation is a statistic we have been dealing with in Ura, if not consciously, then maybe subconsciously. This mentality and this habit that training speed several times will get it to speed level 5. And we want that so that our rainbow training will help us reach maximum speed. Same goes for stamina. Now, there are probably runs where you can already estimate what level your speed training will be by the start of Classic Year and Senior Year. We have been doing several runs of Ura Finale that subconsciously, before Classic Year and Senior Year, we can already see, not even just by the numbers or what level our training stats are, but just how much we have been training a stat. You can already have a confident guesstimate of if your run will give you the stat line that you want, or if you have to make micro adjustments down the line. To win Unity Cup, you must have at least 4 Umas, 1 in each racing category, to be trained in high levels of C rating, or to be safe, B rating, when you arrange your team roster before every Unity Cup. Now, I'll briefly explain this in a bit. The reason I talked about training levels is because training in Unity Cup is vastly different in many aspects than Ura. The one glaring similarity is that training buns is roughly the same in Ura and Unity Cup, where we still want it to be a priority. We want to max out bonds as soon as possible. Every turn after the first 2 turns of Unity Cup, you will notice icons that resemble a mood up arrow next to character icons and training icons. Any Uma that has this icon will have their stat raised when you train on that stat, and this is what Unity Training is. Unity Training is highly valued in training turns. If I were to see a stat, regardless of what stat it is, even if it's guts, if it has 4 unity trainings ready to go, compared to a stat that has 3 bonds that I can level up, I am most likely tempted and will pick unity training over bond training. Now, of course, that might sound crazy and silly at first, but this is really where micro adjustments will come into place, because there are some times where I would pick 3 bond training over 4 unity training, and there will be a lot of times where I will pick 4 unity trainings with maybe 1 or 2 of them having bond levels that I can train, and a stat that has no unity training on it but 3 support cards bond levels that I can raise. Now, the reason for this is that the average of a stat of all Umas on your roster will be what increases your training level, which means that spamming speed training 4 turns will not have the same effect as doing so does in Ura. Having unity training often on speed will be what will give that effect. Because of how unity training raises all of your Umas in your roster, by about senior year, you will have maybe level 5 or level 4 in maybe 2 stats, and level 3 to 4 in every other stat, even if you've been barely training on them like Wits and Guts. I know this is a lot to take in, and this is where I will really try my best to make it less complicated. Now, generally, this is the flow that I personally use that has consistently gotten me to high A rated Umas to A plus rated Umas, and at the same time, winning Unity Cup and the career as well. So pre-debut junior year is when I have a delicate balance between Bond and Unity training. Bond is still a top priority, but by only a small margin. If I were to put a ratio to it, maybe for every 2 training sessions that focus on Unity training, I should have at least maybe 1 training session that, even if it doesn't yield a lot of Unity training, I should have leveled up maybe 3 or 4 support cards in 1 turn. Now, of course, best case scenario, right, is that every Unity training doubles as a Bond level training. We will really be facing a lot of turns where we level up maybe 2 or 3 support cards every turn. So, of course, the best case scenario for that most likely scenario is that alongside training those bonds hopefully have Unity training tied to them, or at least Umas that have Unity training that are not your support card. Now, Classic Year is when Unity training really starts to steal your turns that you would normally use for bond level training. I mentioned earlier that if I see a stat, like say Speed has 3 support cards on it, which is very good, and then I see that Guts has 4 Umas that are not my support cards, but they have Unity training, I will be very tempted to take the Guts training. And this is because, again, outside of other mechanics I have not mentioned yet, just for training alone, spamming a stat or favoring a stat to train is not what will level up that stat in terms of like training level, right? Even if you favor speed training in the entire year of junior year, it's not going to level up speed training from 1 to 2. What is going to level up speed, for example, is if you spend a turn Unity training on a stat that levels up speed or trains on speed. For example, speed obviously increases speed. Training on Guts increases Guts power and speed, and training on Wit also increases speed as well. Now, of course, these are not main sources of speed, but again, these tiny little additions to your speed do add up. Now, good training turn in Unity Cup, which I must remind you that RNG is still a major factor here, is having, like I said, support cards that also have Unity training ready on them, even if all of the Umas or most of the Umas on that stat are not your support cards. So, for example, you have 2 Umas, Rice Shower and Matekanev Kokitaru, who join you in Unity Cup. They are not your support Umas. They are your Unity Cup Umas. Now, even if you had the 3 Unity trainings on that turn, 2 of them are on Raishao and Matekanif Kokitaru, I think that is still a very good Unity Cup training turn because you level up a lot of bond levels and at the same time you get a good amount of Unity training. That for me is a good example. Not exactly a benchmark. There are better versions of that, but those are unrealistic. Like, that's insanely good RNG. But generally, that is in my opinion, that is a good Unity Cup training turn. A problematic training turn is one where you have maybe one Unity training ready to go on a stat. Doesn't even matter what stat it is. It could be guts, wit, speed, power, stamina. It doesn't matter. It's just one Unity training session ready to go and barely any support cards to level up bond levels on. And this for me is like the side effect of micro adjustments as well. But if it's on a stat that you have been training way too much, because just to give you an example, the upcoming CM Cup is long. So a lot of us, I'm sure, have been really stressing the hell out trying to get a good stat line where our stamina is in levels where we are confident our Umas are not going to gas out, but our speed our speed is high enough that we know that they can take first place. Having both is not easy. And especially if you are not pulling for cards, it is very, very difficult. So there will be a lot of situations, because I myself have experienced that, where my stat line is so balanced where my stamina is not enough, where I'm confident they will not gas out, but my speed is not high enough that I'm not confident they will be first place. There are some times where I favor stamina so much, or my Unity training keeps landing on stamina, and I'm like, yeah, it's nice that I have like 700, 800 stamina at the start of senior year, and I'm looking at my speed and it's only at 450. Even that early on, I kind of know that by the end of senior year, I think that speed is going to be maybe 700, 750 at best, depending on how my luck has been going for the entirety of classic year and junior year. These are kind of things you will notice the more you do it. And it's really frustrating to see, so I understand that much. Now, senior year is hopefully when you have all your bond levels maxed out, or at the very least, they are rainbow ready, and you are actually favoring rainbow training at this point. But still picking up some Unity training if there are multiple. Usually like 4 Unity trainings in one session, and if they are in a specific desirable stat. And again, it's preference. What for you is a desirable stat, it really is up to you. And that is the most basic, like, fundamental level of Unity training. Now we have to move on to the next factor, which is Spirit Bursts. Spirit Bursts are a one-time, sort of like a rainbow training for an Uma, regardless if they are a support card or a Unity exclusive Uma. Think of them as ammo in a gun that has limited ammo. You want to save them on a stat that you would like to use it on, but you don't want to bank on them for so long that you end up not using them. The reason why Spirit Bursts are something that you have to think about is because it does expend extra energy to actually trigger a Spirit Burst. And mind you, Spirit Bursts, at least for now, can only be done once. And this is why Unity training in general has a lot of value. Having multiple Spirit Bursts in one career is what we want. But we don't want it at the expense of crucial rainbow training and important stats. So it really is up to you when to use Spirit Bursts and on what stat. What is important, again, is that you do not save them for too long. Because you want to use Unity training on other Umas so you can use them for Spirit Bursts. Unity training Umas that already have used their Spirit Burst is not exactly pointless, as they will still increase their stats, but generally you would rather use Unity training on Umas that have not used Spirit Burst yet. That having been said, this is where card building becomes a balancing act. Your support cards, not counting PAL cards, will be the first 6 Umas you get in your team roster. Now, the default Umas that join in your team, if you do not have a support card in your deck that uses these Umas, are Matekanif Kukitaru, Rice Shower, Haru Urara, and Taiki Shuttle. One glaring issue here is that Haru Urara is hard locked to dirt. Taiki Shuttle can be a miler or a sprinter, while Rice Shower and Matekanif Kukitaru are medium or long Umas. This means that if your cards are heavily lopsided on one specific race length, which most of the time they are, your early Unity Cup races will be very difficult to win. I'll give you an example. Let's take what I think are the 3 most popular cards that are being used right now, specifically also for the latest CM. You have Kitasan Black, Special Week, Narita Brian, and Super Creek. If you noticed, all 4 of these cards are medium and long Umas. So that is already a potential problem where we have an overabundance of Umas that specialize in medium or long, and we don't have enough Umas to increase our odds or chances of winning a team trial in rather a Unity Cup race in other categories. In Unity Cup, you can only have 3 Umas in one racing category. Now, of course, having a B Taiki Shuttle is way better than having multiple C's in Mile or Sprint, depending on where you want to put Taiki Shuttle. But having Taiki Shuttle on B and at least another Uma that's C or low B is already a very good chance of you winning that race. So that is exactly what we want. And this means that if your cards are heavily lopsided, like I said, and this is what I mean by support card building right now in Unity Cup is very tricky. It's not easy. It's very, very tricky. In team trials and in CM, if one Uma in our team doesn't do well, at least we have 2 Umas in the chamber to try and shoot for the win. That mentality is exactly the same in Unity Cup. And the thing is, the difference here is that we have to train them as we go. This is not like CM and team trials where we are using career mode and then we put them in team trials and CM Cup and hope for the best. For Unity Cup, we are literally training these Umas as the races progress. A lot of the cards I personally use, regardless of race length of Umas I run, are support cards that, like I said, they are lopsided towards medium to long distance. Literally half my support deck is Super Creek, Special Week, and a borrowed Kitasan Black. And that already for me forces me to make micro adjustments throughout career where I have to look out for Taiki Shuttle and Haru Urara. If they have Unity training, if they have Unity training ready, I usually favor them over bond level training or even rainbow training or even stat correction if I have to. Now, this is an example of how you can sort of adjust your support card decks. So if you have a really good sprint card, just to give an example, like, yes, I know it is SSR, but this is just an example. Something like Biko Pegasus. Biko Pegasus is, from my knowledge, one of the best speed cards that aren't like Kitasan Black. And I can see why. After all, Biko Pegasus has a lot of energy recovery events. And Biko Pegasus generally has training efficiency 10%, which means that regardless of where Biko Pegasus lands, you get a decent bonus just by having Biko Pegasus land on that stat, which is very good. Now, of course, there are other choices you can go for. King Halo SR in particular is a very decent choice. So this is really one of those times where you will definitely consider swapping out an SSR card for an SR card because they are on a racing category that is not as abundant as the rest in your deck. So, for example, if you have 4 speed cards, maybe 3 of them are medium long or medium mile, and that 4th speed card is probably going to be a sprint or a dirt card. And again, this is an example. I know all of us have different cards to choose from, and some of our choices, our pool of choices are not exactly as deep as we would like it to be. And this is just an example that I hope can provide like at least a potential solution to a problem or a challenge that Unity Cup does impose upon us. So if we are training for if we are training vodka, for example, we want cards built for late surgers and medium and milder umas, which is the case in Ura Finale. In Unity Cup, this is not purely the case anymore. It's not. Most likely our decks for our specific umas are not going to look exactly the same in Unity Cup. If they do, right? If they do, that means that you will definitely have to make adjustments and micro adjustments just so that you get the results you want in Unity Cup. If your support card deck heavily favors one particular distance, this means that you must take a mental note of umas that you do not have a support card of and are Unity Cup umas and are on a racing category that is not present in your support deck. So, like I mentioned earlier, since most of us are training for the upcoming CM, the two umas that you will most likely want to look out for are Taiki Shuttle and Haru Urara, because both of them are on racing categories that we are not training for, which is Sprint and Mile for Taiki Shuttle and Dirt Mile for Haru Urara. There will be some turns where even if Haru Urara is the only Uma on that stat that has Unity training, you will probably take it. Same goes for Taiki Shuttle. You will be making those kinds of decisions at least until you get more Umas that belong to that category so that you have more choices for which of these Umas will be your ace. So, for example, if you get Smart Falcon, that's probably a very solid choice. So, you'll be looking out for both Smart Falcon and Haru Urara, or maybe if you're lucky, Agnes Digital, whenever you do Unity training. And for speed, if you're lucky enough to get Sakura Bakushin O, you can look out for both her and Taiki Shuttle so that your sprint team at least has a good chance of winning Unity Cups. This example of micro adjustment is the reason why the Haru Urara Guts card is practically god tier for Unity Cup. She recovers energy in every event. And while she does not provide skill hints and her event skill isn't exactly the best, you don't lose energy in any of her events. And you even recover energy in these events. And she has a very considerable amount of training effectiveness built into her card. And the best part is that this card is free as long as you have a good amount of points to, number one, buy it, and then MLB it. Like, if there's one free card that we have that is definitely worth MLBing, it's the Haru Urara Guts card. And of course, dirt cards are also not exactly common. And ever since the Guts rework, the value of Haru Urara Guts card is really high right now. And the reason why it's ideal but not realistic to have at least one card that belongs to each racing category is because, as I mentioned, early career, we are balancing Unity training and bond levels. So by having a support card in each category, every Unity training is technically bond level training as well. And one more thing that I have to mention that may go under your radar. If you have a support card of either Haru Urara, Rice Shower, Matekanif Kokitaru, or Taiki Shuttle, and then you choose a team name suggested by one of them, then you yourself will get a guaranteed gold skill at the end of the career if you win Unity Cup that you can spend your skill points to claim. So Rice Shower provides cooldown, Haru Urara gives you Indomitable, Matekanif Kokitaru rewards you with Clairvoyance, and Taiki Shuttle has Mile Maven. Not picking any team name and winning Unity Cup rewards you with No Stopping Me. So this is another reason why picking a card that either is Rice Shower, Haru Urara, Matekanif Kokitaru, or Taiki Shuttle is a very good choice, is because if you want, you are guaranteed a gold skill that you get from picking the team name that they suggested. So for the upcoming, this is just a suggestion, of course. If you are preparing for the upcoming CM Cup, which good luck to all of you, you may want to consider adding Rice Shower to your support deck because, after all, not many of us have Super Creek, so most of us have to choose from using a friend card slot for either Kitasan Black or Super Creek. And some of the cards that we do have, like Medjura McQueen, Rice Shower, and Special Week, they do give gold recovery skills, but those are RNG based. There are chances, there are careers where even if you get the last stage of their event chain, you'll only get like Hydrate instead of Gurmand, for example, from Special Week. Having Rice Shower as your one of your cards, at the very least, guarantees that you will get a gold stamina recovery skill at the end of your career, granted that you win Unity Cup. So that is one less RNG that you have to deal with, which in my opinion is a very good trade-off for like the free Rice Shower card that I know a lot of people have said is not exactly the best, which I can see why. Like in several metrics, Medjura McQueen is a more solid choice, but specifically just for building an UMA for the CM Cup or for team trials, if you want to get the 2 gold recovery skills that some people are really trying to chase to feel comfortable of racing in these categories, Rice Shower in Unity Cup is a good way to guarantee yourself at least 1 gold recovery skill at the end of the career. Because I'm pretty sure some of us who have used Super Creek, we have had some careers where you'll see maybe 1 or 2 of her event chains and then it never finishes, which is frustrating. So Unity Cup, like team trials, lets you choose 3 teams to fight. Now the bottom team is a team you'll definitely beat. The middle team is a team that should not pose a challenge as long as you have been doing Unity training relatively often. And the top team is a team that relies on good RNG and very frequent Unity training. Unity Cup has 5 Unity Cup racing stages, with the last stage being against Riko Kashimoto's team that has 2 very strong Umas, Sol Bitterglass and Little Kai Kokon. Now the ideal route is what many call the 2-1-1-1 route, which is essentially fighting the middle team on your first Unity race and then the top team for the next Unity race in that order. Now the reason this is the case is because when you win all 4 races while picking these teams, you have a plus 50 stat bonus versus the final team, which, believe me, it is a very big difference between plus 30 instead if you race the middle team twice and then the top team twice. Now the order is not the most important part. I myself have tried that. It's really the purpose of fighting the top team thrice and the middle team once. There have been times where on Unity Cup race number 1, my odds for beating the top team was actually very good. And then because I favored bond level training for classic year, my odds for beating the top team on Unity Cup race 2 was so bad that I had to pick the middle team. So after that, I raced the top team twice again, and I still got plus 50 versus Team Riko Kashimoto. So again, the order is not important, but the number of teams that you fight is the important part. You want to fight the top team thrice and then the middle team once. The reason why the order can change is, again, our runs are very different. Some of us will experience barely any Unity training on junior year. Some of us will experience a lot of Unity training and bond level training at the same stat in classic year, junior year. So your odds of beating top team and middle team will not always be the same across multiple career runs. Now, the reason the middle team is usually the first choice is because, like I said early on, we are balancing Unity training and bond level training, which means that Unity training is not as frequent as we'd like it to be, especially if RNG is not in our favor. Now, if it is, this means that you might see your odds against the top team in Unity Cup race number 1 be very good. Now, if it is high enough and you are confident that your team can win, then go ahead and take a shot. A draw or loss doesn't mean you are donezo, but your odds of beating Team Guilty Gear is that much lower. Believe me. If a lot of you have struggled with Ura Finale finals, this is a different level of struggle. This is by far, I think, the hardest, like, career UMA that I've had to face. This means you'll have to favor Unity training a lot more to make up for the loss, because by drawing or losing once, you are definitely not going to get that plus 50 stat bonus in the final race. So your Unity Cup route may instead be 2-1-1-1 or 1-1-2-1, and that is okay. After all, each run has good and bad RNG in different phases of the career, and your micro adjustments may be different from your run before or after, and your Rainbow training, Unity training may be luckier or not as lucky. So once again, RNG is our silent hero and nemesis yet again. One final thing to take into consideration is your UMA's career path. Their career races won't change. Their races in Ura Finale will still happen regardless of how you perform in Unity Cup. Now, the reason why you want to win in Unity Cup, like I said, is the golden skill and bonus stats you get in the end, and the stat bonuses that you get for winning each stage of Unity Cup. Now remember that in Unity Cup, we are training more than we are racing. So if we are not training, we are usually resting. And UMAs that have high amount of G1 races in their career is, in my opinion, easier to run in Unity Cup, because these G1 career races can be seen as a free, quote-unquote, free turn, because you don't spend energy running these races. Now some UMAs then in turn will feel a bit harder, because you are spending energy and turns to meet their career goals. An example of this would be compare Goldship and Ogre Cap's career path. Goldship runs the classics and even runs Arimakinen twice. And in classic year and senior year, your UMA can run medium and long races decently. So they get most amount of fans from Japan Derby, Japan Cup, and Arimakinen. These are three races that yield a lot of fans. Aiming to still get 60,000 to 70,000 fans by senior year for the unique skill upgrade for your UMA means you must run at least one of these three races, especially if your UMA has a lot of G2s instead of mostly G1s. And if they don't run in any of these G1s I mentioned, you will have to spend a turn. Ogre Cap already has a fan count goal, which means you are forced to spend one turn and energy to race once or twice, depending on your luck. And in senior year, she must place top 3 in 2 G1 races, which again means you are spending 2 turns and energy worth of turns that you could have spent on training instead. So what do we have to do? Micro adjustments. For careers where meeting fan goals for unique skill upgrades are needed, or even simply just meeting fan goals for career goals are needed, this means we will need to lean away from Unity training or Rainbow training to compensate and favor one of the two. Now, it is ideal if both Unity training and Rainbow training are equal in value, but with RNG giving us 1 or 2 count rainbows instead of full count rainbows, this is not realistic. So we have to expect low count rainbows, and we have to adjust and treat runs like they are like that. So for Ogre Cap as an example, you will have to rely on luck more than you will someone like Goldship or simply Rudolph, who runs high fan G1 races for free in their career, or even run just like the Japan Derby or Japan Cup in classic year. That is quite rare, but it's so good if you win them, because just by winning that and one G1 race in classic year, you are practically guaranteed to meet your fan count goal that you want to get before senior year, so that you can upgrade your unique skills. With all that being said, Unity Cup otherwise will run the same as Ura. You will be training more than you will be racing, and Unity training Spirit Bursting will make you do adjustments and micro adjustments on every turn you spend, and even down to building your support decks. Now, this is one main reason why this guide took a long time. This is literally like the 3rd revision. I experimented with several builds, several career training mentalities and theories, Unity Cup by far will yield the highest ratings your Umas will get because of the sheer fact that you are training more than you are racing, and the whole nature of Spirit Burst Unity training, and the fact that we have multiple stats that are level 3 or training by late Classic and early Senior year. This means that you will have a very big stat line. Now, RNG luck, once again, is a deciding factor between A rank and an A+ rank Uma. You may watch this guide and many other guides out there multiple times and still not understand it. And the best way to do so is to try and apply what you learned from me and multiple other people that have made this guide, and from your own experience as well. Literally, like my first 2 versions of this, there were a couple of information that I wasn't too clear on. I had to experiment, I had to theorize on it. And when I had to translate it as an explanation or a guide, I had to find the right words and the right way to explain it. And I didn't want to make it feel so bloated. I mean, I feel that this is kind of bloated, but that just goes to show how layered and complex Unity Cup can be. And honestly, all I can really hope for all of you is that after watching this video, if you understand more about Unity Cup before watching this, then that counts as a win for me. And if you still do not understand Unity Cup even after this, that is completely understandable because it took me a long time to understand Unity Cup as well. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of you who have supported my channel here and on Twitch recently, where I have been leaning more towards Uma Musume since I'm horribly addicted and passionate about it. This, however, is going to be the last major guide or video that is Uma Musume related that I will make, at least until I can think of other interesting videos that I think you will enjoy, and at the same time, something I want to make about that is related to Uma Musume. After all, before I started making Uma Musume vids, I made videos about other games, other topics, and I kind of want to go back to that. But rest assured, this is not going to be the last Uma Musume video in general. This will be basically the last for a while, because there are a lot of ideas and projects that I want to finish first. And of course, I don't want to force myself to make Uma Musume videos, because if I do, I'm pretty sure they're going to end up like not good. They're not going to be in the same level that I have or when I made several of my Uma Musume videos, which I really wanted to make. So I have other videos that have been in the back burner for a while that I will go back to, and I hope you'll continue to support me in that endeavor. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video, and I wish you all the best of luck in your career runs. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.